Hey there, this is Tim with Northwest Registered Agents. I'm joined by Dawn today. Dawn, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Tim.
Today we are going to be talking about the rules for naming your business in Washington, and we'll talk about how to reserve the name. So Dawn, a Washington client is trying to name their business, and they're wondering if there's any rules that they need to follow.
That's a great question, Tim. Like any state, Washington has rules that govern how a business can name itself and what words can't be used.
So what would they need to include in their name?
Washington requires certain entity types to describe their entity type in their name. For example, if you are forming a limited liability company, that company needs to include LLC in the name. If you're forming a for-profit corporation, it needs to include Corp in the name.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Are there any words that they cannot use?
They cannot use any words that might be misleading about their business. For example, if you have an LLC, that company name cannot contain the term Corp because that would be misleading.
Okay, is there anything else that they need to keep in mind?
Yes, their name needs to be distinguishable. That means that it won't get confused with any other Washington businesses.
Okay, and how will they know if their name is already being taken?
They can use the corporation search tool by accessing the Washington Corporations and Charities Filing System website.
Oh, perfect. Now, what happens if they're not quite ready to form their company yet and they're worried about someone using their business name?
They can reserve the name by going onto the Washington Secretary of State website, downloading the form, filling it out, and sending it to the Secretary of State with the fee.
Perfect. Thanks, Dawn. So today we learned that there are rules that govern how you can name your Washington business. We also learned that depending on your entity type, you may need to indicate that type in your name. For example, if you have a limited liability company, the name needs to include LLC in some form. We learned that when you name your Washington business, you can't use words that would be misleading about your business type, such as using the word corporation if your business is an LLC. We learned that the business name needs to be distinguishable from other Washington businesses. You can search the name using the corporation search tool on the Washington Corporations and Charities Filing System website. Finally, we learned that if you're worried about another business taking your name before you form your business, you can reserve it by downloading the reservation form, filling it out, and sending it with the fee to the Washington Secretary of State. Thank you so much, Dawn, for joining me and answering all my questions today.
You're very welcome, Tim.
If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Spend more time helping your customers and less time hacking through red tape. If you found this video useful, give it a like. We've included links to what we discussed in the description below. There's also 2 other videos that you might find useful. You need tools to build something big. Subscribe now.